So yeah, it's finally cooled off enough around here that, as you can see, my poor old dusty backyard, you wouldn't believe this is the West Coast. Apparently we have been going through the driest, one of the warmest Julys on record. So, go figure. Anyway, I did promise that I was going to try it with a little more stuff on, so I'm going to be working with my upper legs today anyway. So yeah, continuing on, this is mostly about getting me back in something close to shape, and that's why we've been kind of including you along for the ride. But at the same time, trying to show some of the basic stuff and that I do and that I try to teach. So others do it differently, and there's nothing wrong with that. Everybody has their own school of thought, but basically we're all trying to do exactly the same thing. Learn by doing. So I'm going to start out with the rattan sword again. And again, just checking my edges and that. I do that with the rattan as well, just to see how gishy and soft my stick is getting. And this one is starting to make those noises. So again, I do pretty much all my Pell work. If it's sword and shield, I'm going to put a shield in my hand. Just because. I mean, that's got to teach you some balance. Going to be there. Shows you need to put your hand in the right spot. So again, addressing my Pell. Lead foot forward. I tend to keep my feet, my lead foot, always pointing in the direction of my foe, my opponent. My other foot is always off on an angle. I'm never standing directly, like both feet facing forward. One leg is always going off. Now there are some schools of thought, other martial artists will tell you basically, and you will see it, they will actually have their feet so that, you know, they're running perpendicular, running away. And I can see the reasoning behind that. Doing other martial arts, I totally understand it. But for what I do, I try to keep my toe pointed in the direction of my adversary, or my direction of fight. I also, as I line up, especially when I'm doing Pell work, and at this point, because right now I am simply doing movement for my hips, so I'm adjusting myself to the Pell so that when I swing and I extend, I strike without having to take a step. If I take a step back here, right, and I miss, right, I have to take a step. Now that's legitimate too. There are practices and drills I do from there as well. But today, no, not so much. Once I'm lined up on my Pell, again, rather than facing straight at it, I'm going to shift my shoulders and a little bit of my stance so that I'd be square to the threat. Assuming this is a right-handed opponent, the threat is going to be on this side. That's where his sword is. That's where I have to be concerned. So I'm going to try to keep my body, my shoulders, relatively square to the threat, that threat zone. So I'm going to be lined up in this position rather than that position, just to get myself adjusted to it and used to that. Okay? I'm going to start basically with warming up. Now again, we call it the century, right? I'm going to try to throw about 100 blows, 100 shots, all told. I know I'll probably get well beyond that once I'm finished with this video, but that is my goal. Alright. Making sure I've stretched out before I start. I'm still going to just make sure nothing is clicking in my body as I start. I'm starting to rock, I can feel that. I'm going to try try to stop doing that. Again, before I start this stroke over to here, I'm trying to make sure my sword is pointing in the opposite direction. Trying to make sure that when I'm throwing that, as I roll over, my timing's about right for contact that the edge is going to be on, rather than striking with the black. Do not want to be landing flat. So, another thing about doing pel work, as you're progressing, starting off just in your sweats or whatever practice clothes that you prefer, build up to what you would be probably wearing as a full load. Because one of the things I find, and I have found over the years, is that the way I move when I have no armor on and I do all of this is going to be different than when I've put on 65 pounds of gear. It is going to have an effect. So it'll also change things like your center of balance. You put on a helmet, and for most of us that participate in this game, our helmets can wear anywhere up to about 14, 15 pounds, maybe more. Some wear less, but for the most part it's a pretty big chunk of steel that you're putting on top of your head, which of course is going to move things up a little bit. So put your gear on. Do some of your pel work anyway in a bit of your gear, or all of your gear for that matter, just to get you used to that weight and how it changes your body jack, how it changes the way your body moves, how it fatigues you. How you're breathing too. Where you're breathing from. Your muscles are going to fail you if you're not getting enough oxygen. Heat's going to build up. Your arm is going to feel like a piece of spaghetti. Century a day, they say. I agree. Ouch. Century a day. Keep going until muscle memory takes over. It should eventually just become a dance. And the one thing to remember, as I say every time, if you can't do it with steel, don't do it with a rattan or wooden waster. It's a waste of time. I'd also recommend gloves. It should, when you're feeling right, become a dance. Something you really can just let yourself float into. Song of the sword should fill you, they say, when it's right. Breath control. Don't hold your breath. Don't be afraid to breathe from your belly. I mean, we all look a little chunky when we get our armor on. Me a little more so. Don't be ashamed of it. It's important that you allow your body to do what it needs to do. There we go. Missed. That's it for me, I think, for now. If there's something you'd like to see or a question you'd like to ask, don't be afraid to put it in the comments. Anything I do right now with a center boss, or what we call basically these center line handhelds, you can also basically do with a heater shape. I mean, we will be getting into that. Most of what I'm doing, of course, is around what we do in the Society for Creative Anachronism, which means target zones that I would be focusing on for these drills and these sets of practices that you see. They are going to be tailored in that direction. That doesn't mean that I also don't do the foot, the entanglements, the feet, the entanglements, using the shield as a weapon, which I prefer, but for the sake of the game, we don't really do that. We do some things with the shield, and we will be going into those. So, but for now, that's kind of it. So till next time, and my next little exercise in how things are progressing, take care, guys. Fight well.